Have you ever looked at someone and just wondered, how do they always seem to make the right call? Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. It's not always about a sky-high IQ. More often than not, it's about having a better toolkit for your brain. The real secret weapon? It's something called mental models. So let's get into it.
This right here, this is from the legendary investor Charlie Munger. And what he's saying is, well, it's totally backwards from how most of us think. He's suggesting that the real secret to winning isn't chasing these amazing flashes of genius. Nope. It's just consistently, day in and day out, avoiding the big, dumb mistakes. This one idea, this little shift in thinking, is the foundation for everything we're going to talk about.
So, okay, how do you actually get good at not being stupid? You build what Munger calls a latticework of mental models. Just think of it like a collection of different frameworks, different ways of seeing the world that you can pull out for any situation. When you combine them, they give you this incredible clarity. And this right here, this is going to be your guide to stocking that toolkit. All right, first things first, we've got to look at the models that are designed to just cut through all the noise and get right to the heart of a problem. You have to break things down before you can even think about building a smarter solution. This is first principles thinking, and it's a big one. See, most of us reason by analogy. We say, well, we'll do this because that's kind of how it's always been done. First principles thinking says, forget all that. You strip everything away, down to the absolute undeniable truths of a situation, and then you build back up from there. It is the ultimate tool for genuine innovation. And you want to see a master of this in action? Look no further than Elon Musk. With SpaceX, he didn't just try to make the existing rockets a little bit cheaper. No, he asked a much more basic question. What is a rocket actually made of? And what he found was mind-blowing. The raw materials were just 2% of the final cost. By starting from that basic truth, that first principle, he completely re-engineered an entire industry.
Next step in our deconstruction toolkit is Occam's razor. You know, in a world where there are a million possible explanations for everything, this model is your best friend. It basically tells you to lean towards the simplest answer, the one that doesn't need a dozen what-ifs and maybes to hold true.
And check out this brilliant example. Villagers in India were dealing with deadly tiger attacks. Now, they could have come up with all sorts of complex traps or weapons, but instead, they landed on one simple truth. Tigers like to ambush their prey from behind. The solution? Just wear a mask on the back of your head. It was the simplest, most elegant answer, and it actually worked. Okay, so you've deconstructed the problem down to its core. How do you decide what to do next? This brings us to our next set of models, and these are all about making smart, strategic choices. You've probably heard of this one, the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle. It's the simple idea that in almost any situation, roughly 80% of your results are going to come from just 20% of your efforts. Things are rarely, if ever, distributed evenly. Now, think about your own to-do list. It's so tempting to just cross off the easy, quick items, right? It feels productive. But the 80-20 rule forces you to ask a better question. Which of these tasks will give me the biggest bang for my buck? Find that critical 20% and pour your energy there first. This is a big one. See, most people stop thinking after the first step. They ask, okay, what's the immediate result of this decision? That's first-order thinking. Second-order thinking forces you to keep asking. And then what happens? And after that? It's all about seeing the chain reaction, the ripple effects of your choices. This is how you spot those unintended consequences before they happen. Henry Ford is the classic case study here. So the first-order effect of raising wages for his workers was obvious, higher costs for the company. Simple. But Ford was playing chess, not checkers. He saw the second-order effect. His own workers would suddenly become a brand new customer base who could afford his cars. That one strategic move ultimately led to massive profits. All right, now for some of my favorites. Let's look at a few models that are so powerful precisely because they feel a little weird and counterintuitive. These are all about flipping problems completely on their head to find a much clearer path forward. This is inversion, and it was a favorite of both Charlie Munger and the ancient Stoics. The idea is simple, but it's really profound. Instead of trying to map out the perfect, flawless path to success, you just identify all the dumb things that could make you fail, and then you just don't do them. So, for example, instead of brainstorming all the traits of a great leader, you could flip it and list everything a terrible leader does. You know, they're micromanaged, they never listen, they take all the credit. Then you just make it your mission to avoid that stuff. It's amazing how often success just kind of takes care of itself when you focus on not failing.
Next up, Hamlin's razor. Honestly, this is a mental model that will save you so much stress and conflict in your life. It suggests that when something goes wrong or someone messes up, it's way more likely that it was just a mistake or incompetence, not some deliberate, malicious act against you. And the stakes for using this model can be, well, unbelievably high. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, a Soviet officer named Vasily Arkhipov was on a submarine that was getting hit by U.S. forces. 2 other commanders were convinced it was an attack and wanted to launch a nuclear torpedo. But Arkhipov reasoned it was probably just a mistake or a signal. His refusal to assume malice, to assume the worst, may have literally prevented World War III. So we've looked at some incredibly powerful tools, right? But the real magic, the real genius, happens when you start combining them, when you weave them into an interconnected system for thinking.
And that brings us right back to Munger's big idea, the latticework. See, any single model is just one lens. It's like having only a hammer in your toolbox. But when you can look at a problem through multiple lenses, deconstruct it with first principles, prioritize your actions with the 80-20 rule, and then invert it to spot the dangers, that's when you get a truly 3-dimensional, high-definition picture of reality.
So here's a quick recap of the 6 powerful tools we've just added to your mental toolkit. Think of this as your starter pack. This is the foundation for building that latticework that will help you see the world and your problems so much more clearly.
Look, the goal here isn't just to know these models, it's to actually use them. So think about a problem you're facing right now, big or small. Which one of these tools could you apply to it today? Just pick one and try it. See how it shifts your perspective, because that's the first real step to building a better way of thinking.